Hi, everybody. I'm Jacqui Lewis, and this is Love Period, a podcast about how to love ourselves, our posse, and the world fiercely on the way to making the world better. How pleased am I to welcome my sister, daughter, friend, congregant, the Justice Doula, Micky ScottBey Jones. Micky and I have written together. She's spoken at our Revolutionary Love Conference. Micky's healing work inspires me, and I think our conversation will inspire you. Hi, Micky.
Hi, Jacqui.
How are you doing?
It's day by day, but today I feel pretty good.
Tell me about the day by day, and then tell me why today's good.
Yeah. Well, you know that this whole time through COVID has been very deeply personally impactful for me.
Yes.
In that I, lost my mom to COVID early on in the pandemic.
Yes.
While other people were still kind of, thinking about, do I wear a mask? Do I not? Do we keep doing church? Do we not? Is this real? My mom was already sick in February and March. Mm-hmm. And when it was still hard to get a test,
yes,
was in the hospital, and then she died April 14th. So kind of going through the whole pandemic and then the grief, parenting 3 children through a pandemic, and that impacted their schooling. The whole entire way I lived and worked, everything changed. And honestly, too, it brought to the surface some stuff with my body that I didn't know was there to that extent. It's revealed some chronic pain and inflammation and fatigue that I had been able to ignore until the kind of impact of sitting at home on Zoom in back-to-back meetings all day, every day, that revealed about what was going on in my body. And so just navigating on all of that on top of just what was happening in the world and being a person who holds that alongside of and with a lot of activists and organizers and clergy folk, some days are really hard and heavy.
Yes.
And some days are full of unexpected, immense joy. And, with my kids, they keep hitting their milestones, even though, the world is doing what it does. The other day, I helped my daughter find her first apartment,
Wow,
so.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. How old is she now?
So it's like, she's 20, she'll be 21 soon.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy
so
cow.
It's life, life keeps lifing. And so every day is different. But today I feel like I've been gentle with myself. I've nourished myself well, made sure I stopped and ate and started the day with a good cup of tea and, been able to laugh with my coworkers, and it's been a good day.
I'm so glad. I had a hustly kind of day today, like a good day in which I had to drop in going to get a new mic because I'm in and out of town. And I left my microphone set up in my country, New Jersey space. But it's beautiful here in New York today. People are bipping and skipping. That's my favorite expression. Some with masks, some with not. I got to be at the site today with a couple people from the church. So I think there's something about finding the goodness in the day. Something about right. Finding the goodness in the day that makes the day good. Justice Doula, I feel like you and I have been growing up together these last years, and I'm always thinking, Micky, about your resilient spirit and your really huge heart. And I wonder, where does that come from? How are you kind of joyful and resilient in the midst of, losing mom, raising kids, the work you do that means that you carry other folks' stuff on your shoulders, movement building? How do you How do you source yourself? You said tea today, laughter. How do you source yourself?
I think this is an ever-evolving journey for me. Mm-hmm. I struggle with kind of naturally gravitating to what's wrong or what needs to be fixed in the world, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? It's right. In a way, it's a superpower to be able to walk into a room and say, something's up here, something's not right.
Right.
And then also be compelled to want to change that. That can be a beautiful thing.
Yes.
But where I can get stuck in the what's wrong. Right. So I have to work to cultivate what's right, what's good, what feels good. And so I think that's where my resilience practice is. For me, movement is a big part of that, like physically moving my body, which I'm discovering a new relationship with as I have, come to terms with this chronic inflammation and pain that I carry. I've come to terms with movement maybe being different in my body than it has been before. But movement for me, being able to dance, I love going upside down. And so there's something about, I have this feet up trainer that allows me to do inversions. And,
oh, cool.
Yeah. So I love the feeling of kind of flying upside down. And that includes like within my dancing, pole dancing.
Pole dancing.
Because, you're flying. Like yes, I am able to spin around and go, and I can climb a 12-foot pole and, I feel so strong and I'm able to practice gratitude for my body.
Yeah.
And not because it can do the same thing all the times, but, I can have a conversation. And today I can do this and I can be thankful for that. I can thank my legs or my arms. And so it comes from when I can be grateful and be connected to my body.
Yeah.
And I think also just I tend to be around people or connect to people who know how to experience rest and pleasure because I'm not so good at it. Again, I come in, I'm looking for the stuff that needs to be fixed. I need to do the things. And somehow I keep getting gifted in my life with people who are really good at kicking back and watching a movie or, we need to go outside and play. It's sunny today. And I'm like, oh, okay. And,
yeah.
And I go with them, so it's those other people that I learn from too, how to go out and capture a little bit of joy for the day.
Yeah. I love that you thank your legs and arms. I love that you can fly on a pole. I remember when I first got to Middle Church, one of my members wanted me to go pole dancing with them. I think today I would go. Then I was like, really? Is that pastoral? Do I want that picture of Jacqui spinning around on a pole? I don't know. Let me see. That would be really fun. This idea of pleasure and rest. Pleasure and rest. Did we grow up thinking pleasure and rest was a part of being a good girl, a good person, a leader? I don't think so.
I sure didn't.
Right? And I'm a couple of years older than you, but I don't know that was in the story of good girl. Let's have some pleasure and some rest. Thank God for the discoveries, right? That pleasure and rest are part of loving ourselves. I hear you saying, and I know you to know, that it isn't like you are a fait accompli on that stuff. You're in a journey, you're in a process. You have people around you, posse around you that help you think about that. But if you were just going to say, maybe how are you giving birth, doula mama, to a more self-loving, more restive, more pleasure-seeking Micky ScottBey Jones? How are you doing that?
Well, I will say for one thing, I actually schedule myself into my calendar. And I schedule usually every Sunday, I'll take time and look at the week ahead, right? And I will schedule out, my meetings and everything. I'm kind of old school. I keep both a paper calendar and a Google Calendar.
Okay.
Partly because my team is like, we need to know what you're doing. Can you please put it in a calendar?
Right.
So I have to sync up that
Right.
paper calendar and the Google Calendar. And then I go through and I have a couple of places where I take dance classes. So I put in my dance classes because that's for me.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty generous. I spend the money I want to spend on my dance classes because there's something about it. And some are stretch and some are, more dancey, whatever.
Right.
And then I schedule in, things that keep my body working well, different, kinds of therapies that I have to do, and so I make it a priority in a way by putting it on my calendar.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So that's a huge way that I do it. But there are other like things that I think are kind of weird for me. I kind of require myself to read a fiction book once a year because I just don't read fiction.
Yeah.
I'm always reading something that I can learn from or a theology book or whatever. So I'm like, okay, read something that's just a story.
Yes.
Because I think it's good for us too,
It is. It's a good story. Gardner C. Taylor used to say, preachers need to pay attention to the New York Times bestseller list and read them, but also read the way they describe the books to improve your preaching. Yeah.
That's right. So, and then I'm trying to slow down. Mm-hmm. I feel like I have been running for so many years. Mm-hmm. And, you can run and hustle, even if it's healing work, even if it's movement work, especially if it's movement work, if it's pastoral work, whatever, like anything can become capitalistic, can become part of the hustle culture of like, you have to get everything done all the time. And I talk about those messages. That's what I was raised with, is like, you have to achieve, you have to get it done. It needs to be done now. It needs to be done perfectly all the time, every time. And I'm learning to shut it down and actually just rest at the end of the day. I do not need to be on my computer doing emails at 8:00 at night. And I've just always pushed it all the time. And I have to stop. I just can't do it anymore.
I just can't do it anymore. I think I say that about once a day now. She has it seriously, right? You lost your mom. Yeah. I lost my mom in April, 4 years ago. I felt, Micky, that my mom, who had given birth to me, plugged me into her in a way when she was dying. Like she was on the machines and, lung cancer, blah, 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 blah. But also I feel like she put me into some kind of umbilical relationship with her and plugged me into her and was breathing back out to me, let's finish growing up. I want to know if you relate to this at all. Like, I'm grown, very grown. But I think there was something that finished in her living, dying space where she was giving me a little something, a little more love of self, a little more something that I think has changed me. I don't know if it's too soon to know if that's true for you, but did your mother give you anything that helps you love you differently, love you more?
Well, my mom wrote a couple of letters to me before she died. I think she actually knew she was dying. The way she felt, I think, with this, with COVID, felt different than any sickness she had ever felt. Yeah. And so she was scared.
Right.
And so I think, she wrote these letters and she said, that she had tried her best. And that she had tried to love me and to do the best she could. And children don't come with a manual. And so I did the best I could. And she wanted me to know that she loved me. And we didn't have kind of the, my mom's my best friend, like mushy gushy relationship. We weren't like that. It was complicated. Like, you know, many of us have these complicated relationships with our parents, and particularly with our mothers or mother figures. And I think what I knew from watching my mother's life, and she had another close call with death several years ago, and then this, is that I want to be able to love well while I'm here. I want to feel like I'm communicating that love well, that I'm connecting with the people that I love, that I'm saying the things I want to say now. And I think that is part of what I've learned from her passing is to just like, I need to do it and say it now. I need to invest in the people that I love. There's not going to be a better time to, you know, love my children or to like make sure that I'm spending time with them. And so I think that is kind of, you know, the big lesson that I'm trying to connect into now, you know?
I love that. I love that. Love Period will continue in a moment. There is no sense that we have all these tomorrows to manifest what it is we want to do, where we want to be, and how do we want to love, right? So there's no guarantee about that. Micky, you've got 3 kids. And, you know, I finished my book. It's coming out in November, Fierce Love. And thinking about these 3, love self, love neighbor, I'm saying love posse, love God, the big 3 from our rabbi. And often in these conversations, posse feels like people, like our friends, our girlfriends. You've got a giant network of people. We have lots of that network in common. But you have 3 Micky ScottBey Jones people who who are you, got your DNA and stuff, right? So what is it? What are the lessons, you know, as you think about how you love you, how you're loving you differently, better, slowly, with pleasure and rest? What about your kids? How are you, how are you teaching them? What do they teach you? What's the feeling of transformation in that love dynamic of your kids as your posse to love,
Yeah. Well, I have a closer answer and one that's been with me for a while. First, I talked about this at the Rev Love conference, but, I'm seeing grief right now as this refiner's fire, right? It will burn away all the things that don't matter and just bring forward what is absolutely necessary.
Sure.
What is underneath. And so I think in particular right now, as I've been grieving my mother, part of that is grieving things I wish I had said, things I wish we had worked out, And so there's just, ways that grief is clarifying what it looks like to love my children well.
Yeah.
And to love anyone in my life well, like what actually really matters. Mm-hmm. How do I actually what do I want to cultivate in my relationships with them? And with their friends and the people that are important to them and, Yeah. And then I've always joked that my children are like the best Bible study I could have ever had. Because it's like you want some living illustrations that you got to work through. They're right there as as small people. And my kids, I had mine 3 years apart on purpose. I wanted them very close together, but not too close. And so, when they were little, that was pretty intense. And, now they're almost 21, 18, and almost 15. And, that's, I used to think parenting would get easier as they got older. And I was apparently very wrong. Because, they still need you just in different ways. Right. And teenagers are kind of like big toddlers,
Yes, they are. Let's tweet that out.
Right. So, my kids have always kind of helped me focus on what's important. When they were very small, I had to come to terms with a lot of my own anger. My children
What were you angry about? What were you angry about, love?
Oh, everything. I think just everything. All the stuff, I think, from being raised by my mother. I think we had there were generations of anger.
Got it. Yeah. Yep.
Right. Just,
yeah.
And part of that comes from how we as Black people have to shove our anger down. Right. And so then it spills over into our children. Yes. Because they're the ones who can take it. We're the only people we're legally allowed to hit in the United States are our children, right? So they become the people that we're able to just, get that rage out, and it's kind of for their own good. And we have learned that, we have kind of often bought into like, I need to teach you how to stay within these bounds so that you don't get killed. Like it's also a safety mechanism. Let me beat you into submission so that you will then know how to submit out in the world. Like,
yes, sadly, truth. Sadly, truth.
Yeah. Bell Hooks talks about this, how it's, it's done 100% out of love, or mostly out of love. And it's just the best we have. And so all of that, I kind of came to grips with parenting very young children and feeling this anger rise up in me, feeling this need to like control them and make sure they would be okay. Mm-hmm. You need to know how to obey. And at that point, I believed in a God who needed us to know how to obey.
Sure.
So that was my main thing, was to teach these children how to obey God so they wouldn't burn forever in hell. Oof. And I was just terrified that if I didn't teach them that, they would be separated from me forever in a terrible place. So all of that came up for me. I've been able to deal with my own sexuality as I wanted to raise them with a different understanding of their sexuality. I wanted them to be able to come to me if they had any questions, if they needed condoms, whatever it was. And then as they were teenagers, and I had been working with teenagers for a long time, but as I became aware of the statistics around Christian parents putting their children out on the street.
Oh my God.
I was like, absolutely not. I couldn't do, I was just like, if this is God, then I'm done. I don't need that God. It was that Huck Finn moment. Well, I'll just go to hell then. I don't want it. And that really, really radically changed my theology. And so my children have been that love for them, although it's been imperfect and messy, it has shaped who I've become. And it has, really radically helped me deconstruct and reconstruct my faith.
I love that, Micky. I think it is really true that who we think God is born in relationship. Who we think we are is born in relationship, formed in relationship. Your children, your posse, that is your young people, your children, kind of giving you the, I don't know, petri dish. Let's pick a word. The the clay to shape a new sense of who God is. That's gorgeous to me. That sounds like exactly what's supposed to happen. And that Ubuntu place, somebody I work with, I'm not going to say who because that won't be nice. The other day was like, oh, I'm so sick of hearing about Ubuntu. I said, are you really sick of hearing about Ubuntu? What's your name? Who are you? Why? How are you? Where'd you come from?
Having a bad day?
I know, you must be having a bad day. It sounds good in the mouth, right? But we're becoming all the time. We're becoming all the time in relationship to each other. So it's beautiful to think about your children raising a new Micky theology.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that idea. So you are, you love somebody. I'm not trying to put your stuff out, but I just know that a lot of the time that we've known each other, you've been kind of hoping, to love somebody, and you do. So how does that love nurture your self-love? How does that love, impact the love of your kids? Tell us just a little bit about those dynamics, maybe.
Yeah. You know, this love feels like that grown love. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
that
I
grown,
mm-hmm.
that grown love.
I had some rehearsals to get to the grown love. I did.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
And that is not to invalidate any of the love in my life before that.
Right. Yeah.
You know, not everybody knows my story. I used to say I was never going to write a memoir because I just didn't feel like I had anything to write about. But I have this idea of writing a memoir, and it would be titled something like "I Was a Teenage Bride and Other Things People Don't Believe About Me."
That sounds great. I'd buy that.
Because like when people, right? Because like when people meet me now, they don't think that I could have ever been like dying to get married at 18, 19 and like thinking that was the best thing I could do. Because as a Christian, right, you're supposed to like get married. It's better to be married than to burn with lust. And I was burning with lust, let me tell you. So I needed to get my behind married so I could act right.
Let's get married so we can have sex.
Exactly. Well, so we can have sex without guilt because there was already sex happening. Okay.
Right.
So much sex.
Right.
So I just needed to clean it up, apparently.
Great.
And so I thought that was right. I thought that was the thing to do. And I loved him. So, you know, it wasn't that I felt forced. But my only kind of framework was that was the only way to redeem the sin we had already committed. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I wasn't able to kind of grow into the person I could be before that. And, you know, some people get married at 18, 19 and stay married forever and ever and ever, and they're happy and it's what they wanted. And, you know, so again, this is just my life and my choices. But this love, you know, so I've done that, been there, done that, married, you know, so I don't have these like, I don't need to get married. I don't feel like I have to be in a relationship. So this love, and when I say grown, feels like I'm choosing. Mm-hmm. There is this daily choice to come back to this. Mm-hmm. You know, when you start dating again in your 40s, you're going to get people with baggage, right? Like you're not going to get, you know what I'm saying? Like
the untarnished one or something.
Right. Like just pick your baggage, right? There's going to be
what kind? Some. Is it Kmart baggage? Is it Louis Vuitton baggage? Yeah.
Is it carry-on? Is it a backpack? Exactly. Like, right. You know, so I think we have a lot of lip service around loving people who mess up or who aren't perfect or who have mental health issues or have, you know, been in lots of different relationships or whatever, like all these memes around relationships. And if they're like this, then don't mess with them. And I feel like a grown love is a love that says, I have stuff, you have stuff, and we're going to keep having stuff. You know, we're going to keep having that baggage. You just can basically choose someone to start unpacking that baggage with. You know what I'm saying? Like you can keep going through new people so that you don't ever have to unpack your bag. You can just keep it under your arm, keep it on your back. You never have to open it. And you can keep doing that because they'll put up with that for a year or 2 or 5. But eventually, if you want to get past that, you have to just park it and decide to do that work.
That's right.
And, you know, so we started therapy, like couples therapy, really early in our relationship. You know, because we didn't see it as like a, you know, a bad sign that we were going to sit down with a professional and talk about our feelings and our families and all of our issues. It was like, this is an investment into this thing we're building together.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful.
So it's, you know, it's a beautiful and difficult and rewarding and expansive love. it has allowed me to settle into parts of myself that I didn't really accept before, like settle into my own queerness. And because there were just things I knew about myself, but I had always kind of, well, doesn't everyone find everyone kind of attractive? I just thought, I mean, that's just how it is, right? Like,
Isn't that how
I didn't
it
think that meant anything about me. And so I've been able to understand that, you know, I am queer. I am, and that was happening, of course, before this relationship, but like really to be able to accept myself more and like be, you know, with someone who's welcoming continuous revelations of myself.
Yep.
That's just, you know, it's not my person is not someone who wants me to stay the same. They want me to grow and change and continue to explore myself. And I, from early on, have been super committed to how do I help them explore who they are. And that feels really, really good.
That's so good, sweetheart. I'm so glad for that. I'm so glad for that. It makes me happy to see you happy. So what about this crazy world, Miss Madam Justice? What about what about like the craziness that January 6th was not an insurrection and we shouldn't have a commission about it? What about we can't get rid of the filibuster? What about we can't get climate in the infrastructure bill? I mean, I just want to do a little politics with you about the world, about Israel, Palestine, and the, you know, all the things, Micky, that because we're global neighbors affect our souls.
Yeah.
Do you have faith that the world can get better? And how can we make it better? What's love got to do with that?
Well,
I'll quote some Tina at you.
Right. Which her documentary was amazing, by the way. If you haven't seen it yet.
Oh my gosh, I haven't. Yeah.
So good. Gotta watch it. And like this is I think this is one of the places where the people we love can help us. You know, I feel like I keep going back to that, like how my children have showed me how to love, but I'm thinking about my partner, Leo, and how they just this deep compassion and insight that they bring that I sometimes, you know, maybe I'm checked out for the day or I'm focused on other things. And so being in relationship with them helps activate the parts of my heart that have, you know, kind of gotten a little solid and hardened. You know, so it's such a beautiful thing when I'll tell you the other day they were driving down the road and they passed what looked like to be a woman slumped over in a wheelchair at a bus stop. And they called me on the phone and said,
"Oh, wow.
There's this woman at the bus stop and she is slumped over and I can't, it doesn't look like she's breathing. And what should I do?" And I was just like, okay, like, you know, just no lead in, just right to the story, you know? And I just thought about how I would have just driven by. Like I have to go pick up the kids or I'm going to the store. I probably wouldn't have thought to stop. I would have thought somebody's going to take care of her. Somebody else is going to show up at the bus stop and, you know, and so it helped me clue into where I had just, you know, where am I not connecting to the people around me?
Yeah.
And so there's something about being in relationship with other people who care about the world that can help reawaken us when we're just too exhausted to care anymore, or we're just juggling a bunch of things or whatever. I mean, you know, we're just not all going to stop at the slumped over, you know, person at the bus stop all the time. And so we have to kind of, you know, some of us pull forward and some of us pull back, and we have to be there for each other. And so that really, it was a small interaction. It was like, you know, that's like hyper personal, because I think sometimes for me, I can get so focused on like, on the bills and on the, person and that is definitely important. But the reason I care about that is because I also care about the individual at the bus stop. Mm-hmm. And so I have to be cultivating both of those things at the same time. That's you know really what I'm saying? Good. Like cultivating those relationships,
Yeah. There was this quote I found writing about love the world. Rumi, I'm probably going to say it wrong, but something like, when you do something from your soul, it's a river moving, a joy, something like that. And it made me, of course, then, weird people that we are, scholar types, be like, oh, let me look up river. What's that guy? What? So I was just looking at, just paying attention to the word river in places, spaces, poems, and found this piece that talked about how a river is just like all of these adhered water droplets. And I don't know, that just really struck me about the elasticity of water, Micky, about the power of water, about the flow of water. And I ended up writing a little passage like, we who are in these movements are a river. We are a river. We are a river. Water droplets adhere together. Micky, you and me, Corey, our producer, the people we know and love, Brian, Jen, all the folks. And that sometimes, Leo is the drop who makes you pay attention to the person with the slumped over, Sometimes we'll tag in, sometimes we'll tag out. Sometimes we're the ferocious one. Sometimes we're in the shallow. Sometimes we're in the deep end. But that river keeps moving, and then there's always room for you to get back in. Does that resonate? That loving the world isn't an individual project, that it's a whole river, I don't know, moving.
Yeah. And that's actually, I think, what keeps me like up at night or wakes me up in the morning. It's like what I saw looking at the river of movement was that too many of us were getting dried up. Just whether it's, physical ailments, people getting sick, like not just sick and tired, that too, but like sick from movement.
Yeah.
Just ulcers and cancer. And I'm not trying to blame anybody for what happens to them. Like, disease happens. My mom didn't get sick because she wasn't wearing a mask or wasn't doing what the CDC said. People get sick. But there is so much stress on our bodies.
Yeah.
And when we also then treat each other inside of these movements where we're supposedly trying to birth more love and justice into the world, and we still use each other up and abuse each other and harm each other, we take each other out and we take ourselves out. And we don't have to do 12-hour days. Injustice will be there tomorrow. Like, go to bed, And so I was like, there has to be another way.
Yeah.
And that's when I started thinking about movement chaplaincy and how do we actually say that movement healing isn't separate from movement. Accompaniment and care isn't separate from movement, is not separate from social change. Yeah. In fact, we must have this deep soul force inside of us and connected between us in order to do this work. And that's where movement chaplaincy and daring compassion, all of that came from, because I can't stand losing us to trying to make our lives better. It just doesn't make sense.
There has to be a deep connection between the way we love ourselves, the way we love the people, the way we love the world, all around and around and around. You can't do the work of movement building without loving yourself. You can't. You can't. So I love that. I wanted to make sure we got there to hear you say that for us beautifully, like you did. Okay. What do you know for sure about love?
I don't know. I don't know. I was with Randy and Edith Woodley one time at their farm in Oregon. Indigenous scholars and mentors and elders. And I was talking to Randy about being discouraged. And he said, and I said to him what we often chant. I said, I believe that we will win. And he said, well, what if we don't? He said, if we don't, it's still the right thing to do.
Wow. Yeah.
And so we need to do it. And, I still do that chant when it comes up at a protest. And I'm okay with just doing the right thing, even if that doesn't mean we win, whatever that means.
Yeah.
In my lifetime, or maybe even the lifetime to come. But hopefully I've contributed to what'll get us there. And so, I don't know what I know for sure about love, but I know that I can keep loving in the best way that I know how, and keep trying to receive love when it's given to me, and just keep going towards the things that feel like love, that feel like I feel like when I feel loved, right? Like a dance, or a piece of music, or a long conversation with someone, or a friend delivering food to my house, sitting by somebody's bedside. I just keep trying and keep feeling that flow of love. And I know that if I keep doing those things, I'll hopefully feel more sure about what it actually means to receive and practice love.
Thank you, Micky.
My pleasure.
I'm glad to talk to you today. Be well, love.
So glad. Thank you.
Love Period is
Corey Pig,
Paul Swanson,
Izzy Spitz,
Sarah Janzak,
Jenna Kuiper,
Sarah Palmer,
Nicholas Kramer,
and I'm Calista Brewster. This podcast is produced by the Center for Action and Contemplation, which is located in the heart of New Mexico, thanks to the generosity of our supporters. We also have other podcasts you might like. You can find those wherever you like to listen by searching for Center for Action and Contemplation, or visit us at cac.org to find out more about our other programs. From the high desert of New Mexico, we wish you peace and every good.